Thanks.
Thank you, Jack. We will have an interactive discussion session at the end, and you will have the opportunity to ask questions to our speakers. And I will now invite Professor Noel Conruyt. Unfortunately, this is not in the program because he's lastminute.com. Yesterday he landed and he was just trying to deliver your speech. So he is from Réunion Island, and he has extensive experience in multimedia and e-learning, and apparently today he will be talking to you on a project they are doing at University of Réunion called the Living Lab. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your attention. Just 10 minutes of speech about a project we are leading in the University of Réunion Island. It's about eco-innovation for making e-services. And in fact, I will present you the concept of Living Labs, which is a human-centered digital ecosystem for education with ICT. I am Noel Conruyt, and I work as a researcher in computer science at the University of Réunion Island. Also, I am a biologist and a guitarist. So it has I'm not a mathematician, for example. It's important because information is not coming so far from mathematics, but mostly from living beings. And so I am very pleased to hear about living theory, because it is somewhere something which maps my biological interests. And musical also. So this presentation was for a conference in 1 month. So as we don't know Réunion Island in the world, we are not on the map. I think Mauritius is better known. So I put this slide for them in California. But what we have to sell to the world is our biological and cultural diversity, and I think it's the same for Mauritius, and so we could make a collaborative project together for exporting this knowledge, for example. So towards eco-innovation, because it's a new form of electronic and collaborative innovation that respects the ecology, the ecosystems, the education and the ethics, and which has for stake the knowledge economy in the convergence of intelligences. In fact, it makes use of the co-working business approach and the co-learning usage approach in order to co-design new products and services. And in fact, Living Labs are a way to go in this direction. So, what are Living Labs? A Living Lab is a real-life test and experimentation environment where users and producers co-create tools, services, and new uses. Second definition is a Living Lab has been characterized by the European Commission as a 4P, public-private people partnership, where public and private actors, enterprise, associations, individuals, practice user-driven open innovation. And Living Labs are well suited to new ICT innovation ecosystems that are smart and inclusive in the knowledge society of the European Horizon 2020, It's the strategic vision of Europe for the 6 years to come. In the second definition, what are the problems dealt with the 4 Ps? In a partnership of public, private, and people, how to get to know the future user needs and behavior. That's a usage approach and not a technological approach. How to come up with innovative products and services. How to take advantage of future internet. How to come up with the right business model, and how to export now and do business outside the territory. This idea comes from MIT, in fact. Where do living labs come from? It's Eric von Impel of MIT, which introduced the book Democratizing Innovation in 2005, and the lead user concept as innovators, because he says that individuals are more innovative than enterprises. And they do it essentially for themselves and by pleasure. And on the other side, the Living Lab comes from William Mitchell, also from MIT, and he made this concept arise in the domain of domotics with the Place Lab, by putting hundreds of sensors in a home in order to observe and trace the behaviors of users when they test solutions. What do we do in a Living Lab? Living Lab puts the users at the center of the innovation process with a bottom-up, open and smart approach. In fact, the co-creation of products and services is an upstream step of the proposed business creation. For example, in Réunion we have an incubator, and we work with them to make ideas emerge in mock-ups, prototypes, and products. And Living Labs allow you to explore new uses of the experiment in a collaborative way and assess their relevance when placed in actual use conditions. In fact, there are 320 Living Labs in a network called ENOLL, European Network of Living Labs. And you can see that essentially they are positioned in Europe. But we have got one in Réunion Island, and why not another one in Mauritius? It could be the case for the next level in 2014, for example. Since the start of the European Network of Living Labs in 2006, the 320 Living Labs were created with the label 4P, supported by the European Commission, and our certification at the University of Réunion was made in 2011 in the domain of teaching and learning. If you want to know more about Living Labs, I give you some links here in Europe. In France, there is a French association of 47 Living Labs. A nice presentation, which is didactic, in Quebec, in Canada, from Geoffroy Garon, and at Réunion on my website. In Réunion Island, our idea is to co-design Réunion as a living lab of the world. And it could be a shared objective for educating people to the richness of their environment that needs to be preserved. And in this frame, co-creating e-services with students and professors in Réunion Island University is viewed as a territorial innovation. So I said about teaching and learning, but at the center of the slide you see the term playing. And all the other terms are surrounding this objective, because between teaching and learning, young people are playing how to make serious games to better them, to appropriate their courses, for example. So our Living Lab uses the concept of co-design for learning to innovate with people on the territory. And in our research team, the shift of paradigm that we want to investigate is to pass from knowledge transmission, which is one-way teaching, to science sharing, which is a bidirectional teaching and learning by playing process. And when applying ICT to this science sharing strategy, all the above keywords must be considered seriously for co-designing e-services. So now, our teaching and learning application at Réunion University. Our Living Lab is called University of Réunion Island Living Lab for Teaching and Learning. And indeed, the most important task is to practice the domain of interest. And our role as computer scientists will be to enhance the best practices of masters, which are teachers, to motivate learners to play the activities. So in our laboratory of informatics and mathematics, we want to investigate the thematic of teaching and learning by playing for co-designing better education services with ICT. For example, we want to deliver new tools and applications to these players in order to pass from knowledge transmission of teachers to learners to science sharing between these players, and to be sure that these tools are really used, that is to say, they become instruments in the Rabardel theory. Teaching knowledge, we did it in the past in the field of environmental sciences, by better knowing the richness of Réunion National Park with its volcano and its circus. And for example, the ETIC program on tropical insular environment allowed us to transmit knowledge from specialists with a knowledge-based management system called IKBS that we used also 10 years ago in Mauritius for the domain of plant. IKBS is used to model, to describe, to classify, and to identify specimens for biodiversity management. And the result is, in fact, a knowledge base that can be linked to information databases when we know about the name of the specimen. And the following ETIC program was called NextTIC, and it was conceived to bring the interoperability between these modules dealing with data and knowledge. After that, we introduced the learning dimension in our lab. We concentrated ourselves on know-how rather than knowledge. And know-how is a living knowledge, not to teach, but to share, because it can only be shown with multimedia. So it's what you say too. And know-hows are interpretations of specialists that are vital for knowledge acquisition and understanding by students for learning. For example, the activity of correctly observe and describe a specimen of coral reefs, corals, or tropical forest for the trees is a challenging process for getting a right identification. The activity of making the right gesture also for playing a piece of music is central for getting the beautiful sound and share emotions. These are practical knowledge to learn that we investigated in the e-guitar project. You can see the picture on the left. And for this know-how in science and arts, we will speak about right interpretations of objects, which are biological specimens or musical pieces, interpretations made by subjects who are experts or amateurs. And all this needs to play seriously, but because, for example, playing guitar is 5% of inspiration and 95% of transpiration. And the playing highlights the need to play seriously in order to learn properly. So we co-developed serious games, such as e-campus on the left, and e-fish, e-poisson in French, with voluntary and private partners to understand the use of virtual learning in the younger generation accustomed to video games. These learning games invite people to interact with information differently by being immersed in the virtual environment that is also the real geographical one. And this immersive web, we call it immersive web, can be reproduced on tablets and brought in situ by using the Internet of Things. It is the next big challenge to access to information in the virtual and real space dimension. And all these projects form the content of our living lab that is at the convergence of bio and cultural diversity with ICT. I think I will not pursue this presentation because I think 10 minutes has gone. Just to mention our natural heritage to enhance, and also cultural heritage, cooking, dancing, playing music. And I want to finish this presentation of what is the analogy between biodiversity and music. And somebody who is the ancient president of National Museum of Natural History in Paris said that biodiversity is to living beings what music is to instruments. I think we can stop there and share more on this interpretation. Thank you very much.